So welcome to the Beats with Kelly Kennedy, from my heart to yours. And I am so excited to start my podcast with a VIP and good friend and colleague, Dr. Curatola, because the one thing I know, that as much as I want folks to understand that this is about moving your lymph and letting go and really understanding how your body really works and opening your heart and working on the emotional cord, your physical body is still a physical body. And if there are blockades to healing, the most important person on your biological team is an amazing biological dentist. And we are blessed to have, as far as I'm concerned, the world's best biological dentist, Dr. Curatola from Rejuvenation Dentistry in both New York City and the Hamptons. And he's got a lot of stuff to share with us today. Dr. Curatola, thank you so much for being on with us today.
No, it's a pleasure, Kelly. It's always a pleasure with you. And I'm so glad dentists were always like, they were the second class citizens. They used to say dentists, we're the ones who didn't get into medical school. Oh, you didn't get a medical? You went to dental school? My brother, I remember when I was, I wanted to be a dentist from 6 years old.
I remember that story. I know
I'm going to show you this in my book, The Mouth Body Connection. That's the business card I made when I was 6 years old to become a dentist.
I've seen it in your office. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the original is there. But my mother saved that. It's really interesting. My mother saved that for 50 years. I always was attracted to dentistry. I always thought it was really cool working here. But I remember when I was applying to dental school, I had a brother in medical school. And he's like, it's 4 years of medical school. It's 4 years of dental school. Why don't you go to medical school? Be a real doctor.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And then my father chimed in, but I stuck to my guns, and I do love dentistry, and I love what we can do. And, dentistry is really on the front line of your ability to live a longer, healthier life. 90% of toxicity in the body, 90% of inflammation in the body comes from the mouth.
And you're a physician of the whole body, because every tooth in the body is on a meridian that relates to an organ system. And my philosophy, and opposing to your brother and your father, is that the dentist is the most important. I'm trying to teach my 7-year-old to be Gerry Curatola when he grows up, because I want him to be a great biological dentist, and he wants to impact people's health already. And so I know the best way he can impact their health is to become a biological dentist. And that's why we, as True Wellness and at Not Meds, we align ourselves with the best of the best, the people you train, the people from Europe that we've worked with, to know that they know much more what's going on. And everybody's talking about immune systems, and everybody's talking about how to modulate their immune system, but nobody's talking about how to actually build their immune system. They're talking about taking vitamin D now, this, that, and the other thing, but they're not talking about what's blocking my immune system.
Exactly.
So, and we know root canals block immune systems.
It's known 100% of root canal teeth release endotoxins. And, when you were speaking, I was just thinking, I love dentistry, but I love dentistry, as you said, very aptly. I love dentistry because I always considered myself a physician of the mouth. Unfortunately, most dentists practice as mechanics of teeth
100%.
And not physicians of the mouth. A lot of dentists don't really understand or recognize the role of toxicity, or the truth about root canals, the truth about fluoridation and what it does to the body, the truth about mercury fillings and what they are. They were never told about cavitations, which is cavitational osteonecrosis, or what we call jaw osteonecrosis, these dead areas of bone. They didn't even know how to look for it. So there's a lot of evolution and education that needs to happen in the dental profession. So once I turned 60 years old, I see this stage of my life as mentoring and teaching. And I love bringing young dentists in the office. And yes, I'll mentor Silas too.
He's very excited. He's already a huge fan of your toothpaste.
He's a great kid.
Already there. Well,
he's a very evolved soul. He's a really old soul.
So it's interesting you say evolution, because for me, when I got involved with this biological piece and I started understanding European biological medicine, one of the first things that they said was, you know, you look in the mouth to know how the health is. And I went to Cornell University. I started pre-med, and I switched to pre-vet. And the first thing you do when you take your animal to the vet is they look in the mouth to see the health of the animal. And
exactly.
where did medicine and dentistry separate themselves for the human body, but not for the animals? I don't understand this concept. And from an evolutionary standpoint, like the challenge of understanding what our teeth do and don't do now for us, because we're not hunting and gathering and waiting for our next meal because we haven't fished for it yet or whatever, our whole body has changed in regards to the needs of our body. And so that challenge has changed us, and challenge causes evolution. And without challenge, we don't,
that's absolutely
we don't
true.
continue to survive and grow.
You're 100% correct. And that's why, you know, my hero in dentistry, the person that I look up to, like, to me, the George Washington of biologic dentistry is Weston A. Price.
Yeah.
Weston A. Price was so ahead of his time.
Totally.
And actually, in a lot of my lectures, I have a presentation he did in 1917 to the St. Louis Dental Society. And he talks about the relationship of mouth infection to systemic disease. He was the first mouth-body connection dude.
Right.
And he was talking about mouth infection, and they laughed at him. He's the Charles Darwin of nutrition. Talked about civilized diets and how it doesn't only mess up your mouth and affect your systemic health, but it damages your genes. So he was postulating on epigenetics. Just in nutrition, the things that he came up with in nutrition were amazing.
For those that don't know Weston Price and they're not as intelligent as Dr. Curatola, let me give you the quick skinny. So what he did was he documented when we started to modernize how we're handling wheat and grains and processing wheat and grains, and how it changed the structure of the jaw and how the bite changed and how the teeth started to deform. And they noticed a huge change in people's health. He noticed a huge change in people's health when they process grains versus when they were just eating food off of the ground. And this industrialized farming is really the beginning of all that change in our human genome that changed us from not being able to chew the way we used to chew, because we don't have to. We don't have to grow wisdom teeth necessarily. I mean, we have clients walk in our center, there are 15 that don't have wisdom teeth. And Thomas Rowell 20 years ago told us this was going to happen, and now it is. It's cool.
Well, Thomas Rowell is the second person that I have great respect for, because in the world of biologic medicine, they put the mouth right at the front line. And so, Thomas, if you had breast cancer, you had prostate cancer, or anything else, first thing was, you have root canals. I remember like 20 years ago, I was referring to him, and he had started Paracelsus, of course, in Switzerland. And I was like, he's really getting to root causes rather than symptom-driven healthcare that we were all so used to here in the US. He was looking at root causes. He was looking at chronic inflammation, all these other things, which one of the things that when I went to the Harvard Medical School program in complementary and alternative medicine, that started my work with Revitin. So that was like that. I started doing, when I came out of that Harvard program, I was like, inflammation. Toothpaste was invented by soap makers 100 years ago. You know, it was developed by soap makers, Procter & Gamble, Colgate, all these, and it was flavored detergent for your mouth. Mm-hmm. And then we put bug killers in the 1970s because of the germ theory. Oh, this bacteria kill the bugs. And what you really need to do is you need to nourish your indigenous flora of your mouth and rebalance it. And that when you rebalance the oral flora, it reduces inflammation dramatically.
And that affects your gut.
Yes.
And so all these people are out there trying to boost their immune system, right? They're taking vitamin D, they're taking vitamin C, which are valuable and have amazing
DNK.
Right. We love vitamin D. We love vitamin K, right?
Liposomal vitamin C.
We love zinc. We love all the great things that we've all talked about, you know, the hydrochloric acid, whatever it is. These are all great things to boost our own immunity. Yet
Yes.
you and I have had this conversation that America during the COVID-19 has seen a bit more higher incidence and people look a little more sicker. And we've talked about it for the few years that we've known each other. America's a pretty sick nation. People don't think about it, but it's a pretty sick nation. And they don't realize it because they don't see what actual is causing their illness. When the average American, the statistic I last saw was 9 silver fillings, amalgam fillings. 9 amalgam fillings in the average American. And I don't know what the average is for root canals, but when people say I'm healthy, I sit there and go, well, do you have root canals? Do you have cavitations? And do you have amalgam fillings? And do you have any metal under here? Do you have implants?
Do you have gum disease?
Do you have periodontal
gum disease? So, I mean, like if you, people go, oh yeah, well, you know, my gums bleed when I brush, you know, but
it's no big deal.
It's okay. No big deal. But I'm like, if you brush your hair and you saw blood coming out of your scalp,
you would call somebody.
Think that was normal. Yeah. You'd say something's wrong with my scalp. So the reality is gum disease is epidemic. And that's why, and the products that they're using to kill doesn't reduce the inflammation. So, you know, I always joke, you know, because I had studied the oral microbiome for 20 years and I had followed and even did, you know, 3 clinical studies on Revitin, which the people that did the studies on Revitin were like taking it home to their families in Italy.
I remember Italians, you telling me that
leave
story.
Leave it to the Italians, you know, the Italians, my people. We were doing a study with 10, double blind, right? We had 10 control and 10 with Revitin. Nobody knew what they had. We're at Catholic University in Rome. Somehow it didn't become double blind, it became single blind.
And everybody was looking at the great results going, give me the Revitin.
I was like, all right, we'll do the single blind. But we kept running out of the toothpaste. And finally I flew to Rome and they were like, Dr. Curatola, this is a great toothpaste. And it was like, I was like, yes, but where's all the product going? Because we keep sending cases to you. And they were like, well, I took it home for my mother, my girlfriend, my sister.
Well, people have this concept that there's good and bad bacteria. Is there good and bad bacteria, Dr. Curatola? Could you speak to that for a moment?
Thank you. There's bacteria.
Exactly.
Okay. They behave good when you put them in a good terrain. So terrain environment. So, you know, the naturopathic doctors had it right all along. Mm-hmm. It's not about the seed, the bacteria, it's about the soil, the environment, the terrain. And we try to, you know, I love these like essential oils, tea tree oil, clove oil, cinnamon oil, like kill everything, you know, but we're using, you know, natural oils to kill everything. So whether you're using tea tree oil or triclosan, which is a terrible non-biodegradable pesticide that was in the leading brand of toothpaste up to recently when the FDA banned it because it was linked to cancer. And it was the #1 toothpaste in America for 20 years, Colgate Total. So whether you're using triclosan or tea tree oil, if you're nuking the biofilm, the microbiome, you're really not killing good and bad bacteria, you're just nuking bacteria. So what comes?
Baking soda. A lot of people have baking soda, charcoal. Because
baking soda and charcoal, very abrasive, scratching your enamel, weakening your teeth. Charcoal is ridiculous. I mean, charcoal is good. I use it for people to take because it binds to everything.
Right.
Charcoal is good.
Temporarily.
If you're taking mercury out,
right,
you can swallow charcoal. If you brush with charcoal, not only are you binding to the microbiome, but you are causing a tremendous amount of wear and damage to your enamel of your teeth.
Because minerals are your teeth, right? Our teeth are minerals.
Your teeth are made of minerals.
And minerals will be absorbed into charcoal, not just metals, right. Correct? So they're pulling minerals out of their teeth. They're making their teeth. So the concept of rebuilding versus tearing down.
Yes. It's about promoting microbial homeostasis. We need to make peace with our microbes. They're keeping us alive. And by the way, it's the microbe on our skin. So my wife kept handing me, because this is the big problem right now, is that we have a generation of germaphobes, thanks to COVID-19, that don't get it.
Right.
Viruses are going to be here. They're in our bodies right now, not doing any harm for most people. They're on our skin. We have a microbiome that's made of bacteria, viruses, fungi. We live in this diverse universe. So believe it or not, COVID-19 isn't that strong. It isn't even that strong. You wash your hands.
It's a fragile virus.
There are people hooked on Purell that are destroying the protective microbiome on their skin. And they're getting eczema and psoriasis and all this stuff on their skin. People are in this, they think they have to sterilize their world, right? We have to wear an N95 mask. The reality is, no, what we really need is a healthy immune system. All right, if you're in a crowded subway and somebody has something, I'm not saying that, we shouldn't behave the way the Japanese have done for generations.
And be smart.
You're on a subway, you have a cold, they wear a nice little mask on the subway in Japan.
Sure.
I've been there twice. And I'm like, wow, that's really considerate. But this mandatory masks and this and that everywhere. People are on the beach here in East Hampton with masks on. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So,
and limiting our microbiome by not exposing ourselves to other people and other things and going outside, because we are a multi-complex of all these bugs. And if we limit our exposure, we become smaller instead of expansive. And you need a
monolithic.
Right. And just like people taking the same probiotic over and over again, they're creating an overgrowth of that one bacteria. And that's a problem.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And so it's the variety. And it's so, everybody isolated and spent however long with those 7 people or those 3 people, and they only got exposure to those microbiome.
Yeah.
And, Dr. Zach Bush, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I was going to say, and I was just going to mention Zach, because Zach is exactly, so Zach and I have been like brothers, he has worked on the microbiome of the gut and has come up with he came up with a formulation that I think he deserves a Nobel Prize for healing leaky gut. Yeah. For healing leaky gut. That ion product is wonderful. But I've done the same thing in the mouth with Revitin. So what we do is we have 80% reduction of bleeding in days, 75% reduction in inflammation over a couple of weeks. Does that happen because Revitin has magic in it? No, it respects the science.
Magic.
It respects the microbiome. The magic is it's respecting the science. That's the magic.
The magic is the innate intelligence that takes all that good stuff.
Thank you.
And allows the body to heal itself.
Yep.
Right? So we don't have to kill. We can support, and allow the body to do its own magic.
Definitely. So I want to share something, because I found this quote that I would love everybody who's listening and watching, that this is the quote that I think is, let me see if I can get it. Hang on.
Excellent.
Okay. The message behind the COVID-19. So this is Rene Dubois, 1965. The state of health or disease are the expressions of the success or failure experienced by the organism, us, in its efforts to respond adaptively. That's the key word. We need to respond adaptively to environmental challenges. What are environmental challenges? 5G, a new virus, this and that. I've heard all the
chemicals in their foods.
Chemicals in their foods.
The metal in the air, the metal in their mouth.
Thank you. So the real message here is how healthy. I think we've had a 9/11 event in healthcare security, right?
Correct.
Everybody freaked out. Let's just shut it down. All the planes are grounded, like a 9/11. We grounded ourselves this time, not the planes.
Right.
And we're all grounded, which really, thank God, because it helped me get some really cool
I know. I'm so
products
excited to
done
share that with
finally.
everybody.
But it really gave me time to think. So what have I been speaking about with COVID-19? I've been talking about, gonna see if I can get this. Been talking about that oral health is the 800-pound gorilla in the wellness room, right? Healthy mouth, healthy body, optimal immunity. Right? You
Optimal
said before.
immunity. Optimal immunity. Everybody wants optimal immunity. You want optimal immunity, you have to go find a well-trained biological dentist, and you got to work with a practitioner once you get this handled to drain out the endotoxins and all the toxins that were being stored in there, bugs, whatever. You got to work on the drainage, but first you got to remove the blockades. Then you rebuild.
Right on.
Optimal immunity.
And
you want optimal immunity, you got to handle the teeth.
And you are a pro at lymphatic drainage. And lymphatic drainage is needed when the teeth are worked on. Lymphatic drainage is needed when you're detoxing. Lymphatic drainage is needed whenever you have any surgery.
When you're stressed or when you're stressed.
When you're stressed.
Everybody's stressed and they're not moving their lymph. They're not moving. They're told to stay in their house. They're told not to walk and then breathe in carbon monoxide with their mask. We won't go down that road. But
you have senior citizens wearing N95 masks that are cutting down on their oxygen consumption by 20%.
And that we could do a
of their
whole
oxygen consumption.
We're going to do another podcast down the road about Airway and how important Airway is.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the mask during the Airway one, but 100%. I just want people to reiterate how important that is, that the optimal health cannot be achieved if you've not handled your mouth. And you can eat all the organic food you want. You can drink all the green juices you want. You can do yoga and meditation all day long. You can lay on the grass. You can have no stress in your life, emotional stress. You can have pure joy, love. And if you have a root canal and an implant and gingivitis.
Metal implant. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go to one slide that I wanted to leave you with, and that is, I'm going to go down here. Hold on. This is Dentistry Unplugged from Medicine. Not a good idea. Here's Weston Price. This is the study.
Yeah,
1917. Awesome. The relationship of mouth infection to systemic disease. They laughed at him. That's why I wrote this book, everyone.
And you can get a copy of that on Not Meds, and it's also available in our office. Yep.
Oh, awesome. Yep. Awesome. But I want to go to a slide. I'm sorry, follow with me.
It's okay.
This
well,
is
while you're looking, while you're looking, I want to tell everybody a story that when I first learned about the dental piece in this whole world, it made a lot of sense to me. One, because I was trained as a vet. So I'm like, okay, well, we're taught to look in the mouth first, so that makes sense. And then I remembered something. My mother had rheumatic fever when she was in 3rd grade. And because she had rheumatic fever, every time she went to the dentist for the rest of her life, they put her on antibiotics before she would go to the dentist. And I remember asking Dr. Rao, I don't understand, like, if this is such a disconnect in medicine and dentistry, yet at the same time, my mother had rheumatic fever, and now when she gets her teeth worked on, they're afraid about her heart, so they put her on antibiotics. How is there a disconnect and a connect at the same time?
Exactly. That's, again, classic example of the mouth being unplugged from the body, which, we don't have time to share this whole thing, but I did want to share these 5 steps because I think these are really important for people to get away with, for people to come away with. The first is a cone beam scan. It's a 3D scan of the mouth. It shows the mouth in 3D. You can see cavitations. You can see infected root canals. You can see infections around metal implants. You can see these holes in the jaw of cavitations and bone loss. So a cone beam scan, and finally, you can also see the shape of the airway and whether the airway is constricted. So sleep study is something we'll talk about the next time. Everyone should do that. It's a home sleep study. But the second thing is remove infected root canals, toxic non-biologic fillings like mercury fillings, BPA composite fillings, and then these jaw cavitations, which we can also
with
do this
a
at another time.
biologically trained dentist. Do not do
Yes.
this with your standard dentist. Please, please, please. If you have amalgam fillings in your mouth, if you leave them in your mouth, it's safer than going to your standard dentist who doesn't understand this and is just going to drill them out. Only do this with a trained, skilled, biologically trained dentist, which you can find on Smart or whatever.
Yeah, you want to ask there about a biologic dentist training, because every dentist is starting to call themselves biologic.
Yeah.
And because they do, they took a course online for safe removal of dental mercury, so now they're biologic. Treating jaw cavitations is a very, very delicate surgical procedure in the mouth. It is going into the human jaw, taking out dead bone, stimulating the bone to regenerate, grafting carefully. There are sinuses on the upper, major nerve canals on the bottom. Mm-hmm. So you really need a lot of extensive training to be able to render that service. So thank you for sharing that, Kelly. That's really important.
I only share it because I've made the distinction in my practice, because we've had people go, oh, yeah, I went and handled at my dentist, and I freak out and then they get sicker. And then they get sicker because they didn't take proper precautions. And I feel bad that I didn't make that distinction. So I make sure to make that distinction now.
Yeah, that's great, because there are not that many highly qualified dental practices that do jaw cavitation. As a matter of fact, when I started doing cavitation surgery, I actually developed a protocol that then got adopted by dentists across the country using a laser. They used to cut the bone, take a dental drill into the jaw, squirt ozone around, and close it up. Mm-hmm. And that was about 46% of those did not heal. And it makes sense. Yeah. So I had
that done and it didn't heal.
Yeah. I mean, it was a little over half healed, but 46% did not heal. So I found and they were very swollen, a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. And I found a way to do it atraumatically, without trauma, where they don't swell much and where we can regenerate bone. We started using stem cells, and now we're using exosomes that differentiate and nanocarriers of stem cells to get the bone to heal and for the defect to be eliminated. Not just disinfected, but eliminated.
And you're injecting tonsils to make sure their lymph moves so that they have less swelling as well.
And that is something initially I didn't do. I've only started doing that over the past 2 years, thanks to you, because that's all about lymphatic drainage.
That's right.
So, and that's neural therapy, and we're using a lot of neural therapy now. It's very, very effective, not just for lymphatic drainage, for opening up energetic pathways and stimulating the body's ability to heal. Taking the patient out of sympathetic fight or flight, putting them in parasympathetic, which is the body at harmony with its environment, healing. So third, treating the airway health deficiency, that's a whole program in itself. COVID-19 is a respiratory virus. People who, there were 40-year-olds that they said, oh, he was a perfectly healthy guy. And the guy succumbed to COVID-19, which was frightening. And he had no quote unquote disease. I would say that's absolutely hogwash. He had undiagnosed disease. And very possibly that undiagnosed disease was obstructive sleep apnea. And obstructive sleep apnea, 75% of these people are not diagnosed. So we have a huge move right now to diagnose it and treating the cause, which many times is not a large enough amount of space for this huge organ called the tongue. And the tongue sits back in the back of the throat and it obstructs the airway. So people are literally choking on their tongue in many cases. So treating the airway health deficiency, we have some really amazing removable, non-surgical, non-invasive appliances that can be done to open the airway.
We really need to do an entire show about that, because there's so much to say there about airways and why they're not created and so forth. So absolutely, that's fantastic. And just from my perspective, this is the best piece of information outside of understanding the microbiome of the mouth that I've learned from you in the last 2-3 years that we've known each other. Ian and I have looked back and gone, I think 80% of our client base has an airway issue.
Yeah.
Myself included. I've been dealing with it for a few years, and I've dealt with it in other ways, but I'm really excited about the new system.
So many. Anybody who had orthodontics when they were younger, they had orthodontics when they were younger, and they pulled teeth to make room for the teeth to come in. Many of these people, the arches unknowingly by the orthodontist were made smaller.
Right.
So there's a book, actually a very good book by Dr. Felix Liao called 6 Foot Tiger, 3 Foot Cage.
It's interesting.
Very interesting.
Very
so
interesting.
The 6 Foot Tiger is your tongue. The 3 Foot cage is your mouth.
Yeah. And it doesn't fit. And I used to say that.
Then so your your nasal breathing is here.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a palate in your mouth that's shaped like this, it cuts down on your ability to breathe through your nose. These are people who sound really nasal. They a lot of times they have a big overbite, and that affects the airway.
Yeah.
So let's go to number 4, because this is equally important. Yep. Support your immune system before, during, and after dental treatment. So this big tub, this is called Optimal Detox. Phase 1 and Phase 2 liver detoxification. So when we take out mercury, this is 21 days, and it's delicious. This is chocolate, we have vanilla. But we give them the shake because this is a great liver detox. It's great for detoxing from metals, mold, all kinds of things. And it's delicious. That, and we have a liposomal glutathione, and we have
my other favorite product,
liposomal vitamin C. All real good. And we also have a charcoal for nighttime. How about, let's see, we're doing cavitation surgery. Well, cavitation surgery, I don't know if I have it here. I have an amazing collagen with 4 collagen peptides and 18 amino acids. And then I have this antioxidant drink. This has turmeric, kale, kelp, chlorella in delicious flavors. And then vitamin D3, K2. By the way, everyone should be taking this every day. This is K1, K2, D3. All the Ks and D3. And, these are essential nutrients to helping support your immune system, supporting the ability for your bone to heal, for your mouth to heal. And then finally, you want to, start going through your medicine cabinet. And I don't care what natural toothpaste you have. If it's got herbal oils to kill, get rid of them. If it's got charcoal, xylitol, get rid of them. You really want any mouthwashes, a lot of mouthwash, natural mouthwash. Even if it doesn't have alcohol, it has xylitol. Xylitol's a high-value chemical. It's made it's manufactured as a high-value chemical. It goes through a process of hydrogenation to sugar alcohol. It's not absorbed or metabolized by the human body. And it's crap. It's another, saccharin, aspartame, sugar alcohols.
Yeah.
And xylitol was touted as a natural sugar. It was a complete lie.
Yep.
Just a lie. So those are my 5 steps to biohack your body right now.
That's awesome. And I know that so many people are looking forward to going back to the dentist, looking forward to going back to their appointments. And if I could, just to summarize this, so we've talked about many different things, from, evolution to being challenged to making sure that we're supporting our body, not destroying our body, and doing all these things. And the physical medicine is super important. However, the one thing that I have to say is when I met Dr. Curatola, first of all, I was engaged with him right away. And anybody who meets him is like, he's charismatic, he's loving, he's giving, and that's the thing. He comes from his heart. He comes from his heart. And I have met a lot of biological dentists, a lot of practitioners throughout my years. And it was really interesting. One of our first conversations, Dr. Curatola and I were talking about one of our clients that was a real tough case that we just could not help. She had a lot of head injury. She was dealing with a lot of stuff. And one of the first things Dr. Curatola said to me was, well, when she comes, I'll pray with her. And I I teared up and I was like, whoa, somebody that gets that there's more than just your amazing technique to this. There's more than just your knowledge to this, because you're doing this complimentary for me today to help access my community to make sure they get this information. There's nothing really in it for you. And I appreciate you for doing that. But that's what I love about you. And I love about this amazing community that we're involved with, our tribe. And if you could just speak to that other side of body that there is, that you work with in all dentistry, and how important it is.
Kelly, I really appreciate everything you said, and I'm very touched by what you shared. But I want to tell you that, this is, being in the healing profession is almost like a ministry. It really is, because you're really ministering to people. You're healing. My wife and I have been watching this series. We're going through all the Netflix series. The series Outlander. I don't know if you heard of it. And it's about this woman that goes through time, and she's a healer.
Oh, dude, I love that show. It's a great show.
You're like her. You remind me of her.
It's a great show. It's all about Scotland, and it makes me want to go to Scotland. It's beautiful.
The sets are amazing.
Oh, so
but
gorgeous.
The point is that as a healer, and you're a healer too, and I consider myself a healer first, a healer practitioner. And one of the things that's really important to know is that as a biologic dentist, which is a division of biologic medicine, is that we recognize that there's a life force in us. We call it spirit, we call it prana, we call it chi, but this life force is sacred, and it has an amazing ability to self-regulate and heal through the body. So I realized that my life force is coming in and interacting with another life force of someone in the tent of the body, so I have to get through the tent of the body. But I really feel that it is a great privilege for me to minister. And I've always had that desire to, minister in mind, body, and spirit. It's not just a slab, a mouth in the chair, like connected to, not just a mouth connected to a mannequin. It's a real person. And the other thing, the last thing I wanted to share is that healing is not just biologic. It's energetic, it's psycho-emotional, and it's even spiritual. There are people who are blocked spiritually. People are blocked psycho-emotionally. They're stuck in their mind and fear and all this stuff. There are people who are blocked energetically. And we know that different energetic, we even talk about tooth organ relationships as an energetic pathway. But there are also, biologic blocks as well. And when we talk about toxicity, physical disease, infection, inflammation, and those types of things. So it's so important that we treat the whole patient, and that's what I try and do. And prayer is interesting. Prayer, there's an energy. Our words have an impact. It has an energy, There was even a verse, in the Bible where Jesus said, I tell you, if you have the faith, you can tell that mountain to go from there to there. Mm-hmm. You can move that mountain. Well, what is that mountain? It's a bunch of dense electrons. Mm-hmm. And faith is, a very powerful force. So faith is believing in what you can't see and being certain of things that you hope for. So every day I pray for more faith and I pray for wisdom, because we need wisdom. And it's not, I'm a pretty smart guy, went to school a long time. I've been practicing for 37 years, but I never feel like any of the knowledge that I have can equal the wisdom of the God of the universe, So I just want a little bit. And it's interesting when you ask for it and you start to receive it, you gain the wisdom in the spirit is so much more powerful than the wisdom in the flesh. The wisdom in the spirit is being intuitive. People sit in my chair, I almost know, and you have it too. I've seen you, and I know you have it, and it's a gift. And being able to get an intuitive vibe of what's going on with this person, mm-hmm. and being able to break through that.
And help them as the biological practitioner, that's you're working outside of just this. You're working again on that whole person and from the heart. And if you heal their heart, oftentimes so much of all of it just goes so much easier. Do you not find that, like, if you heal their heart and their heart's in the right place and they come into this because they want to be healed and they want to be helped, that it makes the case go much easier?
Much easier. Much. If you're treating the mouth or anywhere in the body without treating the whole person holistically, you could be banging your head against the wall.
Yeah.
And there are times where I will not treat a patient because they're not aligned.
Right.
I would be doing them a disservice.
Right. They're not ready.
I would actually send that patient to work with you as a therapist on certain things before that person comes back and gets treated for something like a cavitation. If they're weak, they have to be. You always have to make sure that the patient is strong enough to heal.
Fascia, lymph, overall wellness. They got to be flowing from their heart. They got to be flowing with understanding that they're led to the right next, to the next step, to the next step, that everything's a base hit. Nothing's going to be a home run, but everything's a little base hit to get us in the closer and closer direction towards our health. And that starts right here in our mouth.
Bingo.
Well, Dr. Curatola, I think we could probably talk for 5 hours. I'll have to edit this down so that people could actually
banging on the door.
Watch it. Yes, we'll edit it down so people can watch it. But thank you so very much. This has been wonderful. Our Beats with Kelly Kennedy, from our hearts to yours. We wish you the best of health.